That was quite funny, actually. I don't know what just happened there, but welcome to the Knock Talk, guys. Hebrew again, right here, right now. So I'm glad you guys are tuning in. Gavriel Sanders, man, it's a pleasure having you. Sorry about the glitch in the beginning, but I finally figured out what was going on here. I had had a spacebar pause on the music, and I paused it earlier instead of rewinding it, and it like came in blasting, and I was like, oh my gosh, what just happened there? It almost blew my ears out. Hope everybody else made it out there. I do apologize.
My grandmother used to say, in her southern drawl, from Eastman, Georgia, sorrow is as sorrow does.
Chocolate, Mom always said, life's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Anyway, we're live.
You and Forrest. Anyway, that's cultural literacy, Hollywood. So we're not there. We're in Hebrew land.
There you go. There you go. So you have to explain to everybody your title for today, and how that's going to apply to what you're going to teach us.
Oh,
yes, sir.
You mean I'm a teacher? I have to explain myself. Okay. So first of all, warm greetings to viewers across the planet, both in real time and those of you who are watching in the YouTube archives of Tanakh Talk.
Yes.
Thank you very much for tuning in. And it's very appropriate that we'll give you a quick overview, because if you decide you want to watch something else, like, I don't know, sharks eating orcas, or I don't know what else there is to watch here.
Right.
We are, I remember I was looking back in the archives of the early stages of Hebrew for Fun and Profit, Prophet. And once in a while we would do a segment called Sage Advice, which was wisdom from the Jewish sages of various sources. And I thought, you know what, that really has a lot of value, and a lot of people are very interested in being able to tap that. So that maybe periodically, as we do the How and Wow of Hebrew, we just do a little close focus on some textual work, and kind of go from there. And it would be very, very meaningful to everybody if I would turn off some other features on here. So that's very funny. Just a second. Let me take care of this little guy over here. Okay.
No problem. No problem at all. I'm looking for something I created, and I can't find it now.
Did you? Okay.
Yep, so we're on the same path right now, unfortunately. It's okay. I'll figure it out.
So, at any rate, the wisdom that's there is phenomenal. You can spend many lifetimes plumbing the depths of Jewish wisdom and still just barely scratch the surface. There's so much to it. We say in a prayer every single day, Atah chonen la'adam da'at u'melamed le'enosh bina, that Hashem actually bestows wisdom upon a person, knowledge upon a person, and he gives this sense of awareness. And it's there's a big difference between a human wisdom and its limitations, and then something that comes from the depth of one's soul. And that is kind of drawn out through having a connection to what's known as the Masorah, the tradition, the mouth to ear passing along, the baton pass is what I like to think of it as, down through history of this body of wisdom. For some time, much of it was oral. That is to say, it really was not necessarily written. And what we're tapping today was initially part of an oral tradition. And the way it's structured, and we're going to take it from the Ethics of the Fathers, what's known as Masechet Avot or Pirkei Avot, the Ethics of the Fathers, is set up in such a way that it's memorizable. In other words, these are short, pithy, it's P-I-T-H-Y, pithy aphorisms. They're very, kind of punchy in terms of how they're structured. And they're often linked then with also a passage of scripture to elaborate on it, or an anchor text that relates to it. So today we're going to talk about kind of a contrarian view of Jewish wisdom. It's certainly not conventional, and we're going to focus it around basically 4 questions. This is not Passover, okay? So we are, and that's coming up soon enough, in about 65 or 63 days. I can forget the number, but we're not that far off from Passover. But these 4 questions have to do with who is wise, who is strong, who is rich, and who is honored. Now, everybody in the common culture wants to be wise. Everybody wants to have strength. Everybody wants wealth. and everybody wants to be honored. Nobody wants to be dumb, weak, poor, and dishonored, right? I think we could say right across the board that nobody got up this morning and said,
Right.
my aspiration today is to have zero self-esteem. I just don't want. Everybody wants to have a sense of worth. And the way that people go about it gives you an indication of kind of what their inner value system is. So there are those who want to be wise by appearing to be wise. And of course, Jeremiah said to us very clearly, don't let the wise man boast in his wisdom. And the thing that we are to boast in is the fact that we actually have a connection to the living God, that we know God. And that's, by the way, another whole theme throughout the Jewish scriptures is less on the subject of belief and more on the subject of knowing. V'yadata hayom v'hashivota elavavecha she'Hashem hu Elokim. That you know today, and you've caused it to return and come into your heart, be seated in your heart, that God is the Lord. That's something that we do that. Once in a while it talks about believing. The Ba'aminu b'Hashem u'Moshe Abdo, they believed in Hashem and in Moshe his servant, but pretty stably, if that we can use a word like that, pretty balanced throughout the Jewish scriptures. There's these points of knowing, and so I'm thinking of just different passages are flowing through my head right now, particularly from the book of Psalms. It says, know that he is God. It doesn't say believe that he's God. It says know that he's God. And so in the Christian scriptures, you have a lot more about the subject of belief and less about knowing. I recognize in the Gospel of John, for example, he says different places that you might know. But for the most part, it's much more 27 books or letters written around the subject of believing. Mm. And that just doesn't work within Judaism. Judaism is about knowing, really knowing. And it's all centered around, clustered around the event that happened in Har Sinai, the Mount Sinai, the smoke and the fire on this. And we talked before about something called a corporate experience of synesthesia, where they saw sounds and they heard light. It was just like this amazing mixture of sensory input. So I'd like to. Do we have some people in the chat room? By the way,
yes, we do.
Okay, so I want to interrupt the conversations because I know it's interesting. I've been in the chat room a few times. There's a whole other world going on in there.
Right.
It's like it's a whole other program happening in the chat room.
Yes, it is. I actually thought about, just for the sake of keeping it topic oriented, per se, thought about actually just turning the chat off, because people really get people who come in there they will have legitimate questions that they want to ask, but it's so far off topic, and then not everybody, but a lot of people go in and start focusing on that rather than what the rabbis are saying. But as it turns out, it seems like across the board, everybody wants to keep the chat on. So I thought, all right, I guess I can always go back and watch the video again if I want to, right?
Yes, they certainly can. But today I really wish to include the members in the chat room. So I just want to give a shout out to all the people in the chat room. I'd like to get a big shout out back. Hi, Gavriel, from all the people there. And I have 4 points of interaction. So there's people responding.
Andrea, Deanna, the two moderators in there right now, and then Michelle. There's hey Michelle, Al Prozolam. I hope I pronounced that right. Paul Brill, who will be doing
hi, Paul.
We'll be doing his testimony here in the next week or two. By the way, Paul, consider next week, since you couldn't this week, and if that works, then that'll be fine by us too. Possibly just get that through with Deanna. Let's see who else is there. There you go.
This sounds a bit like the romper room, I see Arthur, and I see Paul, and I see Deanna, and I see William, and I see Gavriel. He's really dating oneself to talk about romper room. I mean, that's like funny. Whoa. Okay.
Oh, I see.
Right, so
I see you
should now not see me, and you should see my screen.
That is correct. Let me try. Okay. I've got something. Hang on. Don't do anything just yet. Okay. I think I see the hang up and the video camera icon in the middle of the screen. I thought it was from me, but I don't think it is from me. I think it might be. Give me a second, see if it'll go away. Hang on. Oh, there it goes. It was on the end. Okay, very good.
Okay, great.
Now that I know that, right now let me.
Okay, this is like
Don't go too far yet either, because I'm actually cropping this up. I've decided, I figured out how to fix that issue I was having earlier, because it was positioning you and the Hebrew card on two different parts of my frame, and so I couldn't just toggle between you. So I'm having to create a whole new screen with just your Hebrew. I mean, like while you're on your Hebrew, this will be displayed, and then whenever you're full screen, I'll switch over to a different shot instead of trying to show the same shot like I always do. So there we go. Now we are good to go. Take it away.
You took some Alka-Seltzer and you feel better.
I need some alcohol. I don't know what, but I just started coughing today, and I don't even know why. I feel great, but just it's crazy. Anyway.
Well, how are you coming with that smoking habit?
I tried smoking one time, but I couldn't get the smell off. I'm just kidding. I was going to try to make a joke out of it, but no, I've never smoked. So
that's very good that you didn't, because I remember many years ago, this is before my Jewish life, somebody said, kissing somebody who smokes is like licking an ashtray. It's like,
that's funny.
Whoa, don't want to go there.
Right, so, that's funny.
Okay, so let's get back on track. So here's the help that I need with people in the chat room, because I'm being a teacher, I'm going to ask you a question. And let me get up here on here, and we get to move over here. Now, the screen changes blank, is it?
1 second. I was looking at YouTube. Yes, it's blank. Assigned to viewers live and in archives.
Okay, so here's the assignment to the viewers that are live and in the archives. The archives one, you can't really respond, but I just ask you to respond to yourself. How would you define these 4 terms? And I'm really looking for people's feedback. How do you define the term wise? What constitutes being a wise person? What would you say characterizes one that we would call wise? How do you know? And I'd be interested in hearing your comments from what's coming in the chat room now. And of course, William, you could participate.
Yeah, I'm going to look into this and see. Oh, I got to find the chat. I moved it into a smaller window. All right. What is wise? I'll wait for their answers first because there we go. Life experience, says Deanna.
Mm-hmm.
I would say weighing out all the decisions of people who have succeeded in times past in following their advice.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be one way. Maturity, Al Prislam.
Mm-hmm.
Knows when to shut up. Andrea, that was a good one.
That's great.
She's that shush.
I like bringing in the people. I want the people in the chat window to feel fully included in the stream of conversation here. So
right. Yeah, very good. Wise, a person who has knowledge in an area, life experience. Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
That's wise. Okay. Let's go now for how would we characterize someone who is strong? What constitutes being strong?
Physically or emotionally?
Sure.
All of the above. That's funny.
Well, you bring up a good point, because it's if we go back, for example, at Hanukkah time, we talk about the Greek culture, because it was so predominant at that time of when the Hanukkah miracle took place. And the Greeks had an obsession with they worshipped beauty, whereas Judaism was really centered around the beauty of holiness. They really were focused on the holiness of beauty,
right,
as it's been kind of said in a really succinct way. So we tend to equate strength with something. That's the first place we go to, is physicality.
Right.
What's happening? What are our chat members telling us?
Let's see.
What's strong?
Can persevere, stay in the face, stand or steady in the face of adversity.
Mm-hmm.
Mental capacity plus time. Being flexible. Someone who can pick themselves up when things are not going well and can still see good.
Beautiful. Let's go on to everybody's favorite, right?
Right.
How would you define the concept of being rich?
Rich. Once again, literally or metaphorically? Yes, on both, probably.
Being an old English teacher, emphasis on old, being an old English teacher, we used to say, metaphors be with you. Right? Get it?
Metaphors be with you.
Star Wars.
I like
metaphors be with you. Yeah,
that's funny. I like that.
No, I mean, I think it's fair to look at the term in like a diamond, in whatever facet of understanding you want to apply here. That goes for the people in the chat room as well. Any aspect of what constitutes richness, certainly welcome as a comment.
Right. Very good. 1 second. Let's see what they got here. And Oh, content with what somebody already has, which is a really great example. I remember a really wonderful story about a guy who was wanting advice on how to be happy, right? And how to be content and all this other stuff. And so he asked the rabbi, his rabbi, and this was like several hundred years ago. And
so I'm going to tell you because I know exactly the story and I know where you're going with it.
Cool.
And I want you to hold that until we get to point 3.
Okay, good. Okay, got it. All right, I'll hold
it. It'll fit beautifully.
Okay, cool. Then I'll let you tell it.
Almost like we'd scripted this.
You probably could explain it better than I could. I'll let you explain the story.
Okay. No, I like to listen to you.
Okay, you see how good my memory is. So Rich, content with what you presently have. Right, was the last one.
Okay.
Yep, that was the last one here. So.
Okay, great, thanks. And this is for those in the chat room, and then those listening or watching in the archives. What constitutes being honorable? We use this as a title, an honorific title, that so and so, the honorable mayor of Armpit, Alabama. Right. No, Naval, Nebraska. No, those places don't exist. The honorable so and so will speak at such and such a dinner. So what constitutes being honorable?
Waiting for comments in the chat right now. Honorable to me would be always being able to do the right thing and having the strength to do so. It's different than integrity, but integrity is in that sense of being able to do the same thing, but in private as well as in public. So I can't get this thing to move for some reason. Come on! Oh, there it goes. Now it's going to move. For some reason, I couldn't drag the internet screen in or out for some reason.
I see.
Okay.
Well, let's get into our study then, and briefly here. It doesn't have to take a long time to go through these, but I think first of all, I want to thank everyone for their delicious comments. They really give insight, and I'm always interested in making this as much as possible an interactive experience with our viewers, and we really appreciate each one. The fact that you take and make the time to be part of this expanding Tanakh Talk, the program with a funny name. This community, and I run into people now who know about it. It's really getting out there. So thank you all for sharing that. This is a good place, a good spiritual watering hole.
Right.
So in the study of Pirkei Avot is called in English the Ethics of the Fathers. It has a number of different reasons why it's called Avot. The word Avot is the plural for the word Av, which is the technical formal name for father. But an avot could be used as something that would be like an overarching, like an archetypal principle or a fundamental principle of something. So, but not only are these sayings made by various, fathers in the faith, but they're also very basic principles and some of the most powerful statements in Jewish thought are found in the 6 chapters of Pirkei Avot. And it is really, it's nested in the Talmud among some very heavy, weighty legal books of law, tort law, different things, damages, but it's there and it shines like an ethical gem in the midst of all that. And I think it's there for a reason to say, at the bottom line, it's about being, as one organization I'm related to, it's about being a mensch. Which is a Yiddish word derived from a German word it means a person, but it really means being a mensch is a person of quality. And so it's really an inside job. Judaism is about an inside job.
Right.
One of the personages that appears a couple times in Pirkei Avot, this is what we're taking today is from the 4th parak, the 4th chapter. This is Mishnah Aleph, the first Mishnah in chapter 4. A person by the name of Ben Zoma, and his first name isn't Ben, like Ben Affleck. Is Ben Zoma means son of Zoma. He was not mentioned by his own. We know that people didn't necessarily have last names at this time. They were called Ben of this and Ben that. Aramaic Bar, like Barabbas, as we know from the Gospels. There's Shimon Bar Yochai, the Shimon the Great Tzaddik. In fact, I was in Israel recently, as some people know, and went to the tomb of Shimon Bar Yochai, this great Tana, this great early sage of the Talmud and the Mishnah. And Ben Zoma is mentioned really by his father's name, probably because he was young. He hadn't necessarily achieved the status of what's known as smicha, which is rabbinic ordination. Nevertheless, he had some wise things to say. And amongst these are the four things that we're going to learn. There are four Hebrew words, which are kind of our assignment today to learn. They're really powerful, principle-oriented words. And there's a simple way to remember them. I think of the two Hebrew words, chag, which means holiday, chag. So we say one that we say in a holiday, chag sameach.
Right.
And then am with the ayin and mem sofit, chag am, which would mean like people holiday. We talk about Am Yisrael, the people of Israel. So this Ben Zoma says, Ezehu chacham, halomed mikol adam. And who is wise? Well, he who learns from every person. That's what a wise person is. According to Ben Zoma, and all of these four things that we're going to look at, you'll see, as we said a moment ago, it's really an inside job. There's nothing external about these except in the impact that a person will have by having these qualities on the inside. So your first word to learn is the word chacham. It means wise. It's a little hard to say. You may need to gargle with some milk to kind of get it right. Chacham. A lot of people say hakam.
Right.
No. It's and actually these are two tough letters to have adjacent, because the first one really is most Israelis say them the same, chacham, but it's really more aspirated. The first one says ha-cham. We'll not waste a lot of time on that, but just it's the Jews from North Africa and other parts of the Middle East, actually, because their language is closer to Arabic, say it properly. And then the European Jews have a little more difficulty with that. So they just go with a straight ch, like in German or in Scottish, loch. So Ezehu means who is, Ezehu. There's several other words about where they have who in the end, like Mishahu, who, somebody, or Eifelshahu, somewhere, or Echshahu, somehow. But this is Ezehu. Who is wise? And this word comes up a few times throughout Jewish wisdom. And the answer is one who learns from every man. Now, Ben Zoma goes on then to give us a passage from Tanakh to link to these particular thoughts. And so he says from the longest of the Psalms, the one with 176, it's 8, it's 8 by 8. It's an acronym. Each of these, the 8 verses beginning with Aleph, 8 with Beit, 8 with Gimel, goes on right through. He says, Shene'emar, Mikol melamdai iskalti, ki edvotecha sicha li. For as it is said, and that's what that little word, that first one, she ne'emar. She means that. Ne'emar, it is said. It comes from the word amar. You can see aleph mem resh, which is a word for saying. As it is said, from all who taught me have I gained understanding, for your testimonies speak to me. So what is wisdom? Who's a wise person? A person who's open to it, a person who's teachable. That's really the best way to say it. A person who's teachable. Then as we migrate on, we come to the next quality. We talked about strength. Who is strong? Well, Ezehu Gibor. And this is also, again, an inside job. Hakovesh et yitzro. He who subdues, of course we can put she in there also, it's inferred. He who subdues his evil inclination. So we've spoken about this previously on different programs, and I've heard other presenters here on Tanakh Talk refer to this. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when Hashem, when the Creator, Haborei, Borei Olam, created the animals, it says use the word vayetzer, and the word yetzer means inclination, but it also means it has a word for creating, and it used one yud, but when it refers to humanity, vayetzer, it uses 2 yuds, which indicate that within us there are 2 yetzers, there are 2 inclinations. There's an inclination that we've been given that aspires higher, and there's another inclination that we have that is just really a beast, because it's the animalistic nature that is inside of every person. So it is our job description in this life. If you're wondering, who am I and why am I here? What am I supposed to do? Well, it's to subdue that evil inclination. Now, in Christianity, that is an impossible proposition, because what does Paul say? We have crucified the flesh with its affections and lusts, as I recall the passage. So it's very hard to do. Like you get one hand up there and nail it in, and then you get your feet, nail your feet in. And what do you do with that other hand that's just flailing around out there? Help, please come and nail me up here. The whole concept of crucifying the flesh is very stoic kind of an idea, actually. If you go and look at the philosophical system of Stoicism, which Paul seems to have had some of that. Another discussion altogether. But when it comes to us, we recognize that the Holy One, blessed be his name, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, gave us two opposing natures, and our job in this life is for the higher one to subdue, not kill, subdue, tame, if you will, the lower one. So that's why I like to say it's to tame the beast, not to kill the beast. Right. And the passage that relates to this, of course, well-known one from Proverbs 16:3, Shene'amar tov erech apayim migibor, moshel berucho miloched ir, one who conquers a city. So this is he who's slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that rules his spirit than he that takes a city. So again, we're looking that the Jewish spiritual technology equips us with tools to win the inner battle. And there's a very good book from Art Scroll. I don't have it with me here, but I think I actually gave it away. It's called Battle Strategies. It's written by two women. One of them is Yocheved Rigler. Worth looking at. If you go to the Art School website and get Battle Strategies, and she wrote it with another author whose name is eluding me at the moment. But anyway, look at Battle Strategies, Art School. It's well worth having. It's got a lot of great wisdom for anybody and everybody. So we look and see that wisdom is a person who's teachable, who's humble. We see that strength is something that happens where I recognize what my weaknesses are, and I find the resources to overcome those weaknesses. It's a battle that I do for myself and not by myself. So I may need to include somebody in that path with me, in that enterprise of overcoming the animal part of me. And then we move on then to the next area, which we talked about, which is wealth or richness, ashir. The Ben Zoma asks, Ezehu ashir, hasameach b'chelko. And of course, we heard someone from the chat room kind of refer to this, that this is a person who rejoices in his lot or is happy with what they have. This word sameach, most people know this. If you wish somebody a happy holiday in Hebrew, you say chag sameach, happy holiday, or literally holiday happy. And so hasameach b'chelko, chelko from the word chelek means one's portion, one's lot. The word chelek means part. And so this has to do with simply saying, when it comes to where I'm at in life right now, I'm practicing acceptance. I'm exercising acceptance. And so this kind of gets a little confusing for some people, because I would naturally ask the question here, and I'm sure you would, William, well, what do I do with wanting to break out of my comfort zone? What do I want to do? What about, aspiring higher? Where does that fit into this? And it definitely does, but it starts with not being discontent with where you are. It comes with finding satisfaction in where we are, thanking God for every little thing. And this is where we cue the sage of Kingsland, Texas, for that rabbinic story that you were going to talk about. Take it away, William.
Okay, so as I mentioned, you would probably do this better, because I only remember the punchline. It's not a joke, but I only remember the main final, so I had to do some fillers. But this one guy was asking his rabbi what was the secret to being happy or something like that. Wasn't that what it was? I know what the end of it was. I just can't remember how to get there.
Well, he was certainly discontent. Okay,
right.
He was discontent with where he was at. He had a list of complaints about where he was at, and so he went to see his rabbi, and his rabbi told him to go visit someone by the name of Zusha. Right?
Yes, that's the story. Cool. Go ahead and continue on. You're doing a great job.
Oh, I thought I was trying to outsource it to you.
So, okay.
So he goes to see Reb Zusha.
Put your smiling face back up for us, if you don't mind.
I'm sorry?
I want to see you tell the story.
You want to see me tell the story, but you can't see me right now.
Right. I just see a big white board with some Hebrew on it.
Okay. Well, you'll have to settle for that.
Oh, okay.
So he went to see Zusha, and when he got to Zusha's home, it was a hovel. I mean, we're talking not even any tiles on the floor. We're talking dirt floor, one room, rickety table, chair, just kind of unkempt environment. And so he goes to speak to Reb Zusha about the subject of contentment, happiness. And he said, how do you live a contented life in these circumstances? And Reb Zusha said to him, I don't understand why your Rebbe sent you to me. I've never had a bad day in my life.
Right.
I mean, roughly, that's the punchline, right?
That was the punchline. Yep, that was the story. Yes, sir.
And so once again, from the pages of Jewish wisdom and right off the screen of Fiddler on the Roof, we find simple people who, as I like to say, we were richer when we were poorer.
Right.
All the most common person in American society today is richer than kings when it comes to convenience. You might have heat, running water, indoor plumbing, the ability to cook something inside the house with an oven that you turn on. You've got a refrigerator that works, keep your food fresh and cold. You can lock a door, right? You can lock the windows. You've got furniture to sit on. It may be rickety, but so somebody could say, well, it's all a matter of relativity. That's why it says here, a rich person is the person who rejoices. This word sameach is really a key term. It's interesting because Hebrew is synonym rich in certain areas. In English, for example, we have a lot of different words for roads. Road, highway, byway, trail, path, and we can find more. And Hebrew seems to be rich when it comes to certain emotional terms. It has a number of different words for happiness, rejoicing. And sameach is one of them. The Baal Shem Tov, the famous founder of more modern Hasidic thought about 400 years ago, asked the question of what is happiness, and he said that a person should be besimcha tamid. He says it's a mitzvah gedolah. It's a great mitzvah gedolah, lihiot, the word to be. Lihiot o lo lihiot? That's what Shakespeare asked. To be or not to be. Lihiot besimcha tamid. Mitzvah gedolah lihiot besimcha tamid. It's a great mitzvah to always be in a state of happiness. And this word besimcha, it's interesting, the elasticity that Hebrew has. Sometimes you can scramble the letters around, you can scramble the letters around. And that scrambling of the letters will give you an insight into some broader, deeper meaning that's inside the word. And if we take the letters besimcha and we scramble them around, and we change the sin, the letter sin, with the dot over on the left, put the dot over on the right, so it becomes sh. And what we have here is machshava. The word machshava, from the root of chashav, word for thinking, machshava means thought. So the Baal Shem Tov is giving us a hint, what's known as a remez, that a person's happiness is in his thoughts. And Marcus Aurelius spoke about this way, way back. If you want a classic Stoic, by the way, Marcus Aurelius certainly was. But he talked about the fact that a person's thought life, their inner world of the stream of one's thought, would have a lot to do with their outward expression of happiness. And so, Ben Zoma was on top of this long before, and the Baal Shem Tov much later, but it's been part of the body of Jewish thought that happiness is not externally based. It's internally focused. And from there, you can, whatever your circumstances are, you can be up, you can be down, you can have not. In fact, there's in the ethics of the fathers, there's an explicit statement that says a person who's poor, who's without, should learn to study, because a person who learns to study, who studies the Torah, God's commandments for them, in a state of lack, will also continue in that way when they actually have things. But if a person waits, and for things to turn around, then they might never learn. And another big thought, and one of the fundamentals of Judaism, is if you have a choice between doing and learning, you would think, well, I should just do. They say, no, learn. Because learning leads to doing, but doing doesn't necessarily lead to learning. So Ben Zoma says to us that, quoting the passage here from the book of Psalms, this is Psalm 128, Kuf Kaf Chet. saying, you shall enjoy the fruit of your labors, you shall be happy, and you shall prosper. And so drilling down deeper in this, says you shall be happy in this world, and you shall prosper in the world to come. This is right here in the fourth parak, the fourth chapter of Pirkei Avot. And this might be a surprise to some people because some people think that Judaism never really talks about the world to come. And while it tends to be parked in the category that we might call more of an afterthought, we do find references to it, like when it talks about Abraham would be gathered to his people, or any of the other avot, the people like Yitzchak or Yaakov or Yosef, that they would be gathered to their fathers. It's because this world is where our job assignment is. Okay, the next world, Christianity is very focused on eternal fire insurance, getting out of hell free card. We're not focused on that. We're focused on what is our accomplishment, what is our focus in this world, what do we have to do, and then the rewards come in the next. So Ben Zoma once again redefines the concept of richness for us and tells us that being happy with our lot is how we start. So for those who are listening right now, let's apply this. Think about your life circumstances right now. So there are people listening to us on this program right now, and you're facing some bills and you're not sure how you're going to pay them. And you're facing maybe some health stresses, and you're not sure what to do about it. You're first facing some maybe internal family issues, and you care about somebody who's in a just a difficult state, and you don't know what to do. Well, the first thing to do is I don't mean a shallow, giddy form of false happiness, but is to take quickly and make some kind of a list for yourself of what can I be truly grateful for. And it might be something as simple as I can take my next breath. I have a friend who's sitting in hospital right now, and very difficult for him to take next breath. So that you can take your next breath, that you can blink your eyes, that you can move your hands, that you can digest your food, that you can get up and walk across the room, that you can drive to the store and buy a few things, right, that there are a few dollars. And you just make a quick list of 10 things that we can go, okay, I can this is the lot that I have today right now that I can rejoice in. But whatever that lot is, go ahead.
I was just going to say that there's so many people out there who really do not believe by any stretch of the imagination that they can control their thoughts. I think that's just, they have thoughts and they have to fight with them, but you can actually control them. And what you're telling them is that's telling them basically to do that. I mean, pick what you're going to focus on, right? And just zoom in on that and just stay there. Keep that in your thoughts. And when something comes up that really tries to tear you up, and we're not talking about negating your responsibilities. That's not it at all. But just don't let those things occupy your thoughts. You know what I mean? So.
Well said. And Rabbi Nachman of Breslov said that a person cannot think two thoughts at the same time.
Word. Yep.
So I know that some of us, we've all been there. I'll give you a very good example. I mean, since I'm a teacher in a school, my students in front of a big test, especially in a subject like, chemistry or algebra or calculus, or especially in the AP courses, advanced placement courses. Oh, the stress level, they can't think of anything else. It becomes all consuming. So the idea that you could shift your gears, which I think is one of the reasons why, and I certainly advocate, and as much as I can, I practice a form of Jewish meditation that helps me, get refocused and recentered away from the din and the noise of everyday life, because we are so much more than just what this physicality would portray to us. There's so much more to us. And it takes getting quiet and getting still. That whole idea that we've read in the book of Psalms of being still and knowing, not believing, we talked about before, knowing that Hashem is God, and that we come from a high place. We've been brought into this lower realm to accomplish certain things. When, according to Ben Zoma, it's to overcome that Yetzer. And a person could say, well, how do I know what is the thing that I have to overcome? Usually it's the thing that troubles you most. So for some person, it might be an addictive penchant, inclination. For somebody else, it might be anger. So for somebody else, it might be a poverty mentality. Somebody else, it might be miserliness. The list is endless when it comes to character issues. But we're here to elevate our character. We'll say, okay, that's nice. What's character? I can help you on that one. One's character consists of their repeated habits. If you want to know what I really am, it's not about what I say I am. It's watch my habits. The things which I habitually do tell you what I value most, because we do what we value. And the expression of one's inner belief system is manifest in the outward expressions, actions that they take. Very simple. So one's character consists of one's habits. One's habits, what are habits? They're repeated actions. So actions lead to habits, which lead to character. Well, what leads to repeated actions? Well, repeated words and thoughts. So this is the connecting it back to the source of it. So if we want to do differently, it helps to start to think differently about what it is that we're doing, because the old story goes, if we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to keep getting what we're getting. So let's wrap this up. We talked about wisdom, being wise. We talked about strength, and we've talked about richness or wealth. And the last thing we want to talk about here is honor. As Ben Zoma says, Ezehu mechubad, from the word kavod. Mechubad is honored, and it says the person who's honored is the one who honors another person. A lot of people think, well,
Yes,
he
good.
gave so much money to a hospital, or he's a big community activist, or we measure it in terms of the footprint that they make in the society in which they're in. But according to Ben Zoma, and according to Jewish wisdom, an honorable person is one who honors others. Really simple. And so whether it's saying thank you to someone that served you at the gas station in the state of New Jersey, across the water, they still pump gas for people, or any other service that someone has rendered to you, going out of your way to say hello to someone. In fact, it's a Jewish value to be first to say hello to somebody. That's what's known as halacha. It's part of Jewish law, to be the first to say hello to somebody, to be so concerned about the relationship, and to greet somebody when what's called besever panim yafot, to greet someone with a bright, kind face, no scowling, none of that stuff. So honoring another human being, and notice it doesn't say here, who is he that's honored? Somebody who honors other Jews. No, this is all inclusive. This is everybody.
Right.
This is universal, which is why we're talking about this tonight. Because we have a lot of different people that come to Tanakh Talk to hang out here and to get fed at this watering hole, if you will. And not everybody is going to take the rigorous, I was going to call it a leap. It's not. It's really a marathon to get to say becoming an observant Jew. There are those who say, I want to follow the Noahide path, and what's for me? Well, this is one of the things for you. Honoring a fellow human being. This is falls into the category called Bein Adam L'Chavero, between a person and his fellow. So Ben Zoma taps a passage from the book of Samuel, 1 Samuel, that says, "For I honor those that honor me, but those who spurn me shall be dishonored." I came across a fascinating passage a number of weeks ago. It was on Shabbat morning. We were reading through the Torah portion, and then we come to the part that's read after the portion of the prophets called the Haftorah, which is not a half of a Torah. It's Haftorah is it's an addition. Right? It's a funny word, right? Haftorah.
Yeah.
When I first heard that, why would you want to put the Torah in half? So and in there, in Jeremiah chapter 2, I think it's verse 19. You might look at it if you have a chance. But it basically says that in these words that we're not punished for our sins. We're punished by our sins, which reminded me of another passage, collateral passage in Isaiah 59, that says that your sins have separated between you and God. It's going to use the word mechitza. Now, mechitza, it's an interesting word because if you go to any Orthodox congregation, you'll find that there's this kind of divider or partition behind which is the women's section, right? That's called a mechitza. And it separates between there. And so the sin, which means missing the mark, falling short, whether unintentionally or intentionally, it creates a mechitza between us and the Creator. So if we are dishonorable, hold on to your hat on this one. If we're dishonorable to one of Hashem's creations, then we're really dishonoring the Creator. And that fits into this second phrase that's up here on the screen.
Right.
But those who spurn me shall be dishonored. So I'm basically saying, something wrong with you. God made junk here. There's something. So one of the big values, and Rabbi Nachman speaks about this more than once, is to find that little point, that little spark of good that's in another person. Maybe one time we'll do a lesson on some of Rabbi Nachman's big ideas, and this is certainly one of it, called Nikuda Tova, the finding the good point in somebody else. And that takes effort. That takes looking beyond the immediate that you see in front of somebody. This rebellious kid, this teenager going through a phase, or some controversial issue with one's spouse, or somebody at work. No matter what it is, to look beyond the immediate and find the godly in that ungodly moment. That's huge.
Right.
But that's part of rising above. That's part of our job description to go, okay, animal here, angel here. I'm going for the angelic side here. So we find that these four things that we talked about today, we'll go back really quickly and just quickly review the words in red. And those of you watching on this, you can certainly write these down. There's the word chacham, for wise, we talked about. There's the word gibor, strength. By the way, the Hebrew word gever is one of several words that means man. There's ish, enosh, gever.
I think Gavriel is probably one of the forms of that people are pretty used to hearing, I think, too.
Oh, Gevurah, yeah,
Right,
which,
right.
yes, it's part of the Sephardic tree also in Kabbalah.
Gotcha.
Gevurah is strength. And by the way, the three fathers of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, each of them represents a certain quality. And Abraham represents chesed, which is, all giving, merciful, and Yitzchak represents Gevurah, restraint. And Yaakov, or Jacob, was a synthesis of the two, known as Tiferet, which means beauty. Good illustration of that. I heard it from a Reform rabbi who became a Chabad chassid. Met him in Dayton, Ohio, in a bake shop or something, long ago. And he gave me the best illustration of these three I've ever. He says chesed is take a piano and hit all 88 keys on it.
Whoa.
And chesed is like it's all giving, but it's a cacophony. It's just a lot of noise, right? And Gevurah is sitting at the piano and not playing anything. That's restraint. But Tiferet is knowing which of the keys to hit and which of the keys not to hit.
Nice.
In order to create, isn't that beautiful? In order to create a beautiful melody. So in order to have Tiferet, you have to have Chesed and you have to have Gevurah. And those are like the two ends of a continuum, both of which can be taken to the extreme, because chesed without restraint leads to promiscuity, and this restraint thing can lead to ultimately to anarchy and lawlessness. So the beauty of holiness, the tiferet, is what we're looking to achieve. So we talked about richness also, to be ashir, and finally mechubad. That's what I want to say here. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention on this? And I want to talk about a little announcement for those who are interested.
No, I think this is great. I really loved the whole piano experience. That was really colorful, for sure.
Well, it was a good analogy.
It really was, yeah.
Well, but it's really a good way to think of those things. So, and again, we're really seeking to nurture people's thinking, to affect their speaking, to affect the actions they take, the habits they form, and the character ultimately, because your character ultimately is the outworking of your destiny. Your destiny comes from your character, which comes from your habits, which come from your actions, which come from your words and thoughts. So we want to make sure that we're giving you good soul food.
I did have a thought that was it kind of applies to what you've been doing, because you mentioned the matriarch. So one thing that I heard, maybe you could help clarify this as well, that the patriarchs and the matriarchs, right? Avram, Yitzhak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Gavriel Aryeh. I'm saying that like it's the prayer. Anyway,
That's very good.
The term, the actual word, Israel, Yisrael, is an acronym for all seven of those.
Yes.
And I think that's
Yeah, that's
amazing.
right.
Now the reason why I'm asking you rather than telling you, so to speak, you already knew this, but I'm just saying rather I'm putting it in a question format rather than a statement, is because I've heard that just like Rabbi Rosh should stand for Rosh Bnei Israel, the heads of the children of Israel, right? But I've
Right,
heard that
right.
that was coincidence, that it just so happens you could make it say that. Is it the same for, and if that's true, is it the same for that term Yisrael, or was that intended that way? To me, it seems like it could be intended because years and years and years and years and years, I thought Israel was simply just the name of the land. I had no idea the land was named after the person. I didn't understand that, and so I just assumed, we have a lot of assumptions that we just kind of like accept without even questioning. So, is it really that's how it is, or is it that that's also a coincidence that just turned out that way?
That's the question, right?
That's the
Okay.
question. Yes.
So I'll toss it back to you.
Okay.
What is the origin of the term Yisrael?
It's from Jacob's name being changed.
Hmm. Exactly.
Right.
And so the last two letters, Aleph and Lamed,
Mm-hmm.
we know what that represents. Okay, one of the names of God.
Oh yeah. Oh, I never even thought about that. Wow.
Okay,
Right.
and then the first three letters.
Yashar.
Yes, you see the word Yashar in
Yeah.
there. Okay,
And
now again,
Sar
we have
is
the letter Sin in there. Okay, so Sin is an interesting letter, Sin and Shin, because they're shaped exactly the same way. The only difference is where the dot is. The Sin has the dot on the left, and the
right.
Shin has the dot on the right. And so
Does that mean prince? Right.
sometimes there's an interchangeability with them in terms of spelling, meaning, pronunciation. So,
Right.
for example, the word Sibulet versus Shibulet,
Right.
which comes up in
New Testament
I'm
stuff.
trying to remember if it's Judges or Kings or Sam. It's one of those.
Oh my God! Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I was thinking that was something that was repeated in the New Testament. But yeah, I think that's original. Yeah, I don't think it is. It's
So
in the
and the word
Hebrew scriptures.
the word Sar, using the letter Sin, Israeli cabinet ministers who have a portfolio, who would be called like the defense minister. He's called the Sar Habitachon or Sar Habriut, the health minister, or Sar Hachinuch, the minister of education,
Mm-hmm.
or Sar Hachutz, the foreign minister, Chutz meaning outside. So the root of this word is Sar is one that has it's like a lofty position. And of course, what does the angel say to Jacob? He said, "You have struggled with God and prevailed."
Right.
So I've always found that the word that at the root of the word Yisrael and how it relates to anybody who's seeking to grow spiritually is that spiritual growth is a struggle with God against one's lower nature. And it's not, so we often take it to mean that, well, I struggled with God, like I was fighting God. Well, that's a loser's proposition right there. You're not going to win there. But if I'm struggling with God, as opposed to, hear the way I'm wording
Oh
it?
yeah.
With God as opposed to against God.
Right. It's like
I'm struggling. Yeah, we're all struggling, right?
It's like
Everybody
you're
struggles.
both fighting. It's almost like you're struggling with the doctor to take the shot. You both are there for the right reason, and it's something that's going to end positively.
Yes, because I've come to the doctor in my need, and together we're going to work through this thing. And so it may be a health struggle, if you will,
Right.
but with with proper nutrition or whatever it takes, you're going to get through this thing. So I think similarly we can find that. Now, going back to answer your interesting question in the beginning about each of the letters of the name Yisrael, representing one of the Avot and the Imahot, as we call them, the patriarchs and matriarchs. I do believe that's definitely a later thing. That's an insight because we have this notion called Shivim Panim LaTorah, which is 70 faces to the Torah. And we also have the concept of paradise or pardes, which means pshat. And you know about this, pshat and remez and midrash and sod. Right. So these different levels of understanding. And we see a confluence of those.
Do me a favor, switch your screens if you don't mind. So
Yeah,
because
that's
you're
right.
you're
Should do
done
that.
with the
We're done.
PowerPoint anyway, right? Okay.
Well,
Good.
actually, I have one last screen that I need to do.
Okay, keep it right there then, because it's kind of hard toggling back and forth for you. So
Okay, fine. So I just want to let everybody know, for those who are interested, there's an interest in some Hebrew classes forming. So we're going to do that, probably using the technology platform of Zoom. And there'll be Hebrew taught in Hebrew. We're going to do that through stories and songs and humor. This will be kind of a natural bridge to biblical Hebrew, because so much of modern Hebrew is extant or comes right out of biblical Hebrew, as you well know, William, from your years of study. We're planning to do this, twice a week, 40 minutes each.
Right.
That should be pretty good. We'll, of course, archive these for review. These will be small classes. There will be a small charge, because it's a lot of work to do this. So $12 per person per lesson, which is, in New York, you can hardly get a decent hamburger for that, not in the kosher restaurant. There'll be 2 levels. There'll be Kita Aleph, which is for someone who hasn't mastered reading yet. You may know some words along the way, but you haven't really mastered the reading system yet, so we want to help people with that and get them through that. And there'll be Kita Beit, which is mastered reading, has some essential vocabulary, and you just kind of want to build on that and go further. So all you got to do is just send an email to me that says, save me a seat in level A, or send me a seat in level B, at gavrielsanders@gmail.com. And as soon as we have, like 10, 12 people per level, we'll talk about launching a class. And I think it's a natural flow through, because we've wanted a long time to actually teach Hebrew online, but I can't do this through this portal to the masses. This is not going to work. there are too many variables that are involved here. So I'm looking at how I'm going to switch myself back.
You already
here,
did.
Share screen.
You already did.
And I'm just going to be back. Okay.
Yep, you're good.
Hey, here we are. Okay. And thank you for all of you putting up with that, all the white there on the screen.
Nice.
So again, I want to just mention to everyone that, well, you can close your ears if you want to, but it's Knock Talk is an amazing resource. It doesn't happen without a great deal of kind of soul giving. That's a Hebrew term, kind of, Masirut Nefesh, a lot of soul giving on William's part and his family, to actually have built the studio, improved the studio, and upgraded the technology, the bandwidth, the costs, and so forth, all the archiving that goes on. It's just so many different things. And contrary to what you might think, the replays of the content on YouTube doesn't really pay the bills. So if you can help, I'm talking about really something small, $5, $6, $7, $10 in a month through PayPal. There's a place there here on that you can do that. Then we really appreciate it. William doesn't ask me to make this plug. I'm just saying that it's a real deal, and things don't happen without sustaining, and you can be a sustaining part of this community by just a little coffee money this way if you can.
Thank you, brother. That's awesome. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate those who have already taken that plunge. There are several people have mentioned in the past, and this is something I never even thought about really bringing up until someone else mentions it. Is that they said, well, why would I have given it a long time ago if I knew you needed it? I'm like, you have no idea how much I need this. It's one of these things because a lot of people think because it's such a high-end production, if you want to call it that, they think that, wow, these guys must have a lot of money to be able to run all this stuff. And that's definitely not the case at all. I did a check today. Me and my wife sat down and tried to work out all the numbers, and I'm still in the red. Red is when you're not clear, and the black is when you're good, right?
Yep.
So we're still in the red, but it is definitely shaping up. So and if anybody really wants those specific hard numbers, I have no problem giving them to you. So anyway, just letting you know, and thank you, Gavriel, for doing that. I appreciate that. It means a lot. And so yeah. So
we're family, and
yes,
we have to take care of each other, and it really does get down sometimes to dollars and cents, and
right.
You've made. I know, huge sacrifice of your time and your technology experience, and you've had to say no to certain things that might have been income producing to you in order to keep this thing afloat. And there are hopefully plans to expand the, we used the word footprint earlier, to expand the footprint of your reach, and that's going to take you being able to put more time into this. So as our community expands, we just we don't make pitches for money here. We just don't. But this is once in a great while. I'll take a moment here and encourage the other content providers to do the same. Just to say, if you can, great. If you can't, we're here for you anyway. Nobody's going to go anywhere, and nobody's going to be refused from the food of this spiritual table. So we're delighted that you're here, and please share the resources of Tanakh Talk with friends and family. We're seeking to constitute a digital community across the world that wouldn't exist without this funny guy down there in Kingsland, Texas, who dedicated some space in his backyard to make this place. So
True.
we really appreciate it. So that's it. I think I'm going to look over here at the clock. Oh yeah. We're past time that I wanted to do.
Well, I appreciate it. I had another question I was going to ask you, but
go ahead.
Fortunately for you, I can't remember what it was though, but it was important. I should have wrote it down.
Too young for this to be happening.
I know. Hey man, I just hit 50, so I'm almost middle age according to the Bible. So I'm shooting for 120. I'm just saying.
Was it last week we told you what you say to someone on their 120th birthday?
I don't remember. What? Maybe. Oh, what did you say?
Have a nice day.
Oh yeah. That has got to be the funniest thing I think I've heard in a long time. Oh my God, have a nice day. Oh, that was great. Anyway, okay, very cool. Guys.
Thank you, all of you. So, is there any last comment in the chat window?
You know what? I'll find out right now. Let's find out right now. I don't think so, but we'll see. Mimi just said, Shmuel, he said 35 as a question, middle age, because nowadays people don't live to 120. So, all right, Deanna needs to talk to him. So I need you to coordinate with Deanna. Deanna, send Gavriel an email, GavrielSanders@gmail.com, and then you can give him your phone number. Y'all can talk, however that works out, okay? So there you go.
Super.
Psalm 90, man lived 70 years. Interesting. Yeah, Psalm 90. Okay, cool. 1, 2, I'm your age, William. I hope that's a good thing. I would be interested in your classes, says Michelle. Thank you. Very good. Reach out, send him an email, and he'll coordinate with you, Michelle, exactly how to do that, okay? Larry Beck, my dear brother, good to see you. Larry Beck says to tell Gavriel Aryeh Sanders hello for me. Very good. Very good. And you
getting a big wave here.
Larry's he's not only one of the moderators, but he's also has been in the studio numerous times. He lives within reach, which is really nice. Wow. And nice. He's got a little thing that he is working on. Do me a favor, Larry, just so I can say it on the program. Tell me what it's called on your T-shirt that you made. That T-shirt is really clever. Okay, so it has to do with Noahides, right? But the cool thing is, sorry, I had to cough. His design that he came up with was brilliant, because rainbows are really circles, but all we see is like half of it, right? And I thought it was interesting that he had the globe on his shirt, and he had the rainbow going all the way around the globe. So there's no way to confuse that with something we don't support. Yes. If you know what I'm saying, right?
Right.
Really clever. And he hasn't responded yet. Maybe he didn't hear me ask. There it goes.
I was just thinking of a very good book title for somebody who's a Noahide. As long as they were formerly like a couch potato, the book title would be From Nogahide to Noahide. Right? Somebody copyright that right away, From Nogahide to Noahide. Okay, so
Larry says Teespring. This is the sign, sign of the covenant.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's see.
There's a lawyer out of Chicago that I'm trying to think of his name. I think it's called First Covenant. He does, but he did a book on this, and there's a way he did worked with the rainbow that way. So
nice.
Okay, now we've now moved from where I am in New York to we're now in Babylon, because we're just babbling on here. So
okay, fair enough.
I will wish you all a wonderful, blessed, good day, good night, good afternoon, wherever you might happen to be. Good now is the best way we say it. Thanks for tuning in. William, thank you for your support as always. It's always a pleasure. We love and appreciate you very much.
Thank you as well. I appreciate it very much. Guys, we'll see you guys next week. Hashem willing. Y'all have a great week. Shalom, shalom.
חשוב מכל חשוב והכרחי להיות ביחד